Florida, the Sunshine State as it is widely known. But the reality is that Florida should be called the Fire State, as many of the plants and animals that are unique to this part of the world are in fact dependent upon this natural process for their very survival. As you drive across this state, much of what you see has been shaped by the presence or absence of fire and water over hundreds of thousands of years. While we must have resources in place to control destructive wildfires, land managers, public safety professionals, scientists, and policymakers throughout Florida are recognizing the importance of returning the process of fire to Florida's native habitats by using controlled or prescribed fire. By using controlled burning as an ecological tool to manage natural lands and timberland ecosystems, we are able to restore and preserve Florida's diverse ecosystems, improving native plant and animal habitat while reducing the accumulation of dense vegetative fuels that can lead to dangerous and costly wildfires. Here in Flagler County, we have a history of major wildfires, most notably in the 1980s and late 1990s. In fact, due to the county's large undeveloped tracts of land and substantial acreage of timberlands, smaller wildfire events occur here annually. As a result, Flagler County has developed a well-trained and experienced fire department. The Florida Forest Service also maintains its Bunnell District Field Unit here in order to provide for quick response to wildfires in the area. It is important to remember that fire has been a natural presence in Florida's landscapes for millions of years and has historically helped to maintain healthy ecosystems. Florida's native plants and animals have adapted behaviors and vegetative responses that respond positively to occasional low-intensity fire. Annually, Florida leads the nation in the high amount of lightning strikes per square mile, and so many of the habitats in the state have adapted to this presence. In addition to the role fire plays in the natural world, it also can pose a very real hazard to human safety. For several decades, this hazard was the driving force behind an all-out war on fire, often eliminating controlled burning within Florida's forests in favor of suppression exclusively. This well-documented occurrence has unfortunately initiated changes in ecosystems and has resulted in an unintended buildup of potentially dangerous vegetative fuels that historically burned off irregularly that could result in wildfires with catastrophic consequences. We now know that the most efficient and cost-effective method to approach both wildfires and habitat health is to recognize the importance of both tools, controlled burning and wildfire suppression, in order to provide for human safety and ecosystem diversity. Flagler County has performed prescribed fire for many years in the county's natural areas, including Hall Creek Preserve, Princess Place Preserve, and recently Malacompra Road Park. Malacompra Road Park is a unique natural area park among many in Flagler County and is located at the eastern end of Malacompra Road. With an area of 23 acres, park visitors and local residents often use the park to enjoy Flagler County's natural Coquina Beach or to walk along the historic Coast Guard Road. The majority of the natural area of the park consists of an increasingly rare coastal natural community known as Coastal Strand. Typical vegetation in Coastal Strand includes dense saw palmetto, grasses and vines in open sandy areas, dwarfed cabbage palm trees, red bay, yaupon holly, and scrub live oak. It is understood by scientists that coastal strand communities were historically susceptible to periodic fires. Saw palmetto, a major component of the coastal strand ecosystem at Malacompra Road Park, is a great example of a plant that has adapted over time to these periodic fires, and in fact, a single saw palmetto may be hundreds of years old. The last controlled burn implemented at the park occurred in 2001. As a result of the long interval between fires, saw palmetto, oak species, and other plant species had reached a height and density that was preventing some of the important ground cover plants to thrive. In early 2013, a controlled burn was planned at Malacompra Road Park with two parallel objectives: habitat maintenance and vegetative fuel reduction. This planned burn was intended to decrease some of the woody, taller plants like scrub oak and saw palmetto that shade out the important ground cover grasses at the park. These grasses, which are dependent upon what's called a high-frequency, low-intensity form of fire, provide forage for the threatened gopher tortoise and the many species that are dependent on this part of the natural community. Simultaneously, the control burn would decrease the density of some of the accumulated vegetative fuels on the property. By burning the site under predicted favorable conditions, the heavy fuel load was eliminated, providing an added level of protection to the homeowners in the area. Citizens were kept informed and up to date regarding the planning and start date of all aspects of the controlled burn, including mowing around existing structures at the park. This coordination allowed citizens with health issues or those planning outdoor activities to make accommodations. In January 2013, the Florida Forest Service, Flagler County Land Management, and Flagler County Fire and Rescue performed the controlled burn. Many of the residents of the adjacent communities were present and were able to see the prescribed fire activities from their yards. The controlled burn took about 8 hours to complete, from the first test fire to the final stage or mop-up of the smoldering vegetation. The feedback from the community was positive, and the fire was successful in meeting the objectives of eliminating hardwoods, stimulating the growth and expansion of a grassy ground cover, and reducing a buildup of flammable natural fuels on the site. Immediately after the controlled burn, residents and staff began investigating the area and found gopher tortoises across the site were already at work, cleaning out burrows and preparing for the coming bounty of spring. All of us here in Florida are fortunate to live in a state committed to the protection and management of our natural resources. Healthy, thriving habitats, increased water storage in the aquifer, and less intense wildfires are all benefits that controlled burns can provide.